All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a situation that is balanced on a razor's edge, the high-stakes negotiations between the United States and Iran. Right now, there's a temporary ceasefire, but what happens when that clock runs out? We are about to dive into one of the most volatile geopolitical situations on the entire planet.
And that's really the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? The one that could directly affect your wallet and global stability. See, this isn't just some far-off regional dispute. The outcome here is going to send shockwaves through the global economy. So with the clock ticking and the two sides seemingly further apart than ever, we're going to break down what the future most likely holds.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the fragile truce that's currently in place. Then, we'll really dig into the unbridgeable divide between what both nations want. After that, a really critical piece of the puzzle, a succession problem inside Iran that's making everything even harder. Then, we'll get to the core of it, the four most likely outcomes, and finally, we'll calculate the staggering global price of failure.
So how did we even get here, to this very tense pause? Well, the path to this point wasn't paved with diplomatic breakthroughs. Honestly, it was forged in failure.
It all started with these marathon 21-hour talks in Islamabad, which completely collapsed. The U.S. immediately responded with a full blockade, basically a move designed to strangle Iran's economy into submission. And it was that intense pressure that forced this very, very fragile two-week ceasefire. But here's the thing, it's just a pause. The fundamental problems that caused everything to break down in the first place, they're still there, bubbling right under the surface.
And this gets us right to the heart of the whole problem. The gap between what Washington is demanding and what Tehran can or is willing to accept, well, it seems almost impossible to bridge right now.
Okay, so look at this. On one side, you have Washington with a huge 15-point plan. They're demanding Iran completely dismantle its nuclear program, cut off its entire proxy network, think Hezbollah, and severely limit its missile arsenal. But from Tehran's perspective, this isn't a negotiation, it's an existential threat. They see their nuclear program as the ultimate survival guarantee. Their proxies, that's how they fight their enemies over there instead of on their own soil. And their missiles are really their only meaningful defense against much more advanced militaries.
You know, this quote really just sums up the entire deadlock perfectly. For Iran's leadership, this isn't a deal. It's a demand for what they see as unconditional surrender. And there's no leader in Tehran. It doesn't matter if they're a moderate or a hardliner who could accept these terms and expect to survive politically. It's just a non-starter.
And just when you think it couldn't get more complicated, it does. If that huge external divide wasn't enough, there's a massive internal issue that makes any kind of compromise even less likely. And it all revolves around who will eventually lead Iran.
Analysts have a term for this, the legitimacy coercion substitution trap. I know, it's a mouthful, but it describes a simple and very dangerous political reality. Think about it like this. A new CEO takes over a failing company. To prove they're the right person for the job, they can't start by giving things away to their competitors. No way. They have to project strength. It's the exact same thing for a new Iranian leader. Being tough, refusing to back down, that is the fastest and maybe only way to lock down your power.
This whole situation basically puts any potential successor to Khamenei in an absolutely impossible position. Their hands are tied. To secure power, they absolutely must have the backing of the hardline Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. And the IRGC is fundamentally against any deal like this. So for any new leader, making a concession on the nuclear program or the missile program would be seen as a fatal weakness. Their political survival literally depends on projecting strength, which makes a diplomatic deal a form of political suicide.
So, okay. Given this unbridgeable divide on the outside and this political trap on the inside, what are the realistic chances of any kind of deal? Well, let's break down the four most probable scenarios.
I mean, just look at this chart. It tells a pretty stark story, doesn't it? The biggest slice of the pie, nearly half, is the probability that the fighting just resumes. And look at the sliver for a comprehensive lasting deal. It's so small you can barely see it. That visual alone tells you just how grim the odds of a real lasting peace actually are.
Now this table breaks it down even more clearly. A full comprehensive deal, we're talking maybe a 5 to 10% chance. And that internal political trap we just talked about is a huge reason why. Really, the best we might hope for is a limited interim deal, basically just kicking the can down the road. But the most likely outcome, with a 40 to 50% probability, is that the ceasefire just expires and the conflict goes right back to where it was. And, chillingly, there's a very real 10 to 15% chance that one mistake, one kinetic incident, sparks a major regional war.
So,
Why does this diplomatic chess match on the other side of the planet matter to you? Well, because if this fails, the price is going to be paid by everyone, everywhere, and that includes you.
If diplomacy falls apart, experts are predicting oil could surge to $150 a barrel. And this isn't just about the price of gas at the pump. This is like an inflation bomb that drives up the cost of absolutely everything, from the food on your grocery bill to any package delivered to your door.
The hit to the global economy would be severe. Projections show that for every single month that oil stays above $100, global GDP drops by nearly 0.5%. At $150 a barrel, analysts say we'd be looking at a near-certain global recession.
And it doesn't stop there. It's a domino effect. Food and fertilizer prices would skyrocket. Inflation would spiral out of control. Major economies like Europe, Japan, and India would almost certainly be pushed into recession. And financial markets, they'd become incredibly unstable. It's a cascading crisis that hits every single one of us in the wallet.
This all leads us to a final and honestly terrifying concept: terminal escalation risk. Think of it like a train that's locked onto a track headed straight for a cliff. It's that point where all the structural forces, the internal politics in Iran, the hardline demands from Washington, have closed off every single other exit. Conflict becomes the final destination, not because anyone necessarily wants it, but because all other paths have been systematically blocked. So, that leaves us here with a final question for you. Knowing what we've just laid out, the deep divides, those political traps, the pretty grim probabilities, where do you land? Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? Do you think there's a hidden path to a deal that we're missing, or are we just watching the world drift toward another devastating conflict? Let me know what you think.